Launching a new product is very exciting since you finally get to play the Amazon game and see if your idea was a good one or not. Launching a product isn't as complicated as it used to be. There are two fundamental things you need to do right. 1, listing optimization. 2, pay-per-click advertising. This is something you need to set up correctly from the start and something that you will continuously work on as time goes on. You can add a new product to Amazon long before your initial batch of inventory arrives. You can have your listing fully optimized, and the same goes for your initial PPC structure. This means that you can have everything set up before you actually start selling, and the same moment your batch of items gets loaded, it will all become available for business. The first thing you need to do is to make the listing, which must do 2 things. 1, contain enough relevant, high search volume keywords so that your listing can get indexed as time goes on. 2, have compelling copy and product images that present your product well, inform your potential customers about the product, and highlight its features. Of course, you already know all of this. What you might not know is what are the best keywords and how to get them. We're going to use an example for this. Let's say we're launching a silicone baking mat. The best keywords are the ones that we know for a fact other silicone baking mats are indexed on and highly and organically ranked on. The best way to get them is this. First, we go to Amazon and type in silicone baking mat. Then we pick the best-selling one, open the listing, and take the ASIN and copy and paste it here. Now we will have a file containing all the keywords that the best-selling silicone baking mat is indexed on. From there, we can pick out the most relevant ones and use them in our listing copy. This list of keywords is something we will also use in our initial PPC structure. It is exactly this synergy between the two that will position your product in the future and help you grow its exposure. You get indexed based on the keywords in your listing, and then you proceed to advertise on those keywords via PPC in order to secure organic ranks. We want to use the short-tailed, literally meaning short keywords that are basically contained in the longer-tailed keywords people are going to be searching for in the listing. So you don't need to repeat them, and you don't actually need to put in a lot of them. These short-tailed keywords, as well as the long-tailed ones containing them, will go into your initial PPC structure. So for example, these are the keywords that you will want to use in your listing. We should identify a good number of keywords we want to use for our PPC. Remember that as you are launching, you want to find out as quickly as possible if your product is viable. Therefore, you should not start by going all out and setting up every possible type of PPC campaign. What you should do is identify the keywords, or in PPC terms, keyword targets that have to work. This means that you need a group of keywords that directly describe your product. Then use those to see that when people put those keywords in the search bar and find your product, they're considered to be a satisfying answer. Here's how to use them, or rather, how your initial PPC structure for a product launch should look like. We will take a decent amount of keywords we extracted from the file. We will handpick them one by one to determine if they're in fact relevant and they're describing the product we're selling, in this case, a silicone baking mat. Now we're going to set up a single campaign with 3 ad groups, and this will be our primary campaign. Keep in mind that PPC gets a lot more complex than this. This structure will only serve as a test for your new product so you can know if it's worth committing more money. You can diversify the structure later on. What we're going to do is create a campaign, and then our first ad group will be an exact group. We will call it Primary Exact. Please look at the screen. Next, we will make a phrase ad group and we will call it Primary Phrase. Here, we will put the same keywords and we will also put those keywords as negative exact. This way, there will be no overlap between the ad groups. We will do the same for our primary broad campaign, only this time we'll use a negative exact and phrase match. Now we have covered the entire spectrum of keywords that can come from those primary, highly relevant keywords. All the ad groups will be getting impressions and hopefully conversions on different targets. The reason the bids are different is because the broader the match, the higher the number of targets, and therefore, the less precise it is. We're merely hedging our bets in a way by making the bids lower by match type. Now we need to talk about budgets and how you're going to measure the success of your campaigns. Your initial goal isn't to get a low cost of sale. That comes later once you've established that the launch was successful, meaning that you have determined that your product can sell. Your budget is your own to decide. Also, if this is your very first product, Amazon will give you a free $50 for your initial PPC spending, which you will soon realize is not much. However, it's a great boost to get you started. I would suggest having a $20 to $30 daily budget. Your campaign will probably not spend even close to that, but as your position in the bidding settles, it should go up over time. If it doesn't, then increase the bids. The best way to do it is to increase them by 10 cents across the board from all the ad groups. Now let's talk about your goals and how to determine if your product has had a successful launch. You should have a goal in mind before we start the campaigns or before your first batch of items starts loading into your FBA warehouse. The most effective way of doing so is to set up a PPC budget and expected sales. For example, let's say your item sells for $30. You can say you will need your product to get 10 sales by the time you spend $300 on advertising. Since we're targeting very significant keywords that directly describe your product, all the clicks you will get will be from people searching for something that accurately describes it. So if they keep finding your product and looking at your listing, but not deciding to buy it, you might not have picked out the best product. In the event that your campaigns are spending money and not getting any sales, you should first try adjusting the price and possibly putting more work into your listing images. The odds are that you will be getting sales, and the only thing that would really mean that it was a miss is if you start getting returns. Otherwise, if your product is selling no matter the ad spending, this means that you can adjust and make it work. Now, as you notice that you're getting sales, you should open up your campaigns and find the keyword that brought the sale and put it in your keyword tracker. Doing this in the early stages of your product launch will be a great source of data for you to use down the line. Pay attention to the screen. Here we can see rankings for this baking mat. However, as soon as you start putting in the keywords that brought you sales, they will show up as index keywords and you should see your organic ranking going up. Having this constant insight is something that you will use as you continue to sell. You can compare your spending on a certain target and see how it correlates with your organic ranking. This way you can assess how much more aggressive you should be on certain keywords in the future to get to the top of the search. Or you can find targets in the future that simply are not worth pushing PPC on. This is an overall incredible tool that will help you make much better and more informed decisions when it comes to PPC in the future. Starting to keep track of it at the start of a launch will make it even more insightful. Now, the first week of your launch, you should simply keep the campaign going. Only do minor adjustments if necessary, which will most likely be increasing bids until you get some number of impressions. Also, if you see some particular targets that are pending so much that they are expanding the budget so that other targets don't get a chance to get clicks, you can reduce that one target bid or simply turn it off. This is basically how you would launch your product in a very cost-efficient way. You might be thinking that you should do something more like set up a social media promotion and discount that you would advertise. This is usually very expensive and it doesn't really work as well as it used to. In the past, you could boost up your rankings by putting up what was called a super URL into your social media promotions. This was basically a link that you would find when you search for a certain keyword to find your product. The way it worked was that every sale would count as a person coming in, searching for that product and buying it. Now you can't do that. All the sales you would get through that link would only count as a single sale, so it is not nearly as potent as it was before. A lot of people have spent thousands of dollars on launching their products with an insane 50% to 80% discounts, which gets them to page 1. However, just because you're on page 1 doesn't mean you belong there. You could find yourself losing your rank quickly once you put in your normal selling price. The point is that if your product doesn't sell while being advertised on highly relevant keywords, and if you're unable to sell it on the platform using its own advertising system, you have a bad product. This is why doing things like this, simply laying the groundwork for your future product's growth and using the most precise methods of advertising, is by far the most cost-effective way. If you truly have the best product in your niche, it's only a matter of time before you're at the top of the searches.